what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I do hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. There is much to go over in this morning's video, and the first thing we will discuss is the tropics. It'll be broken up into two different segments. There'll be a segment about an area we are watching over the Gulf, a little bit closer to the lower 48. It does have a shot to develop, and we continue to watch these tropical waves out here in the Atlantic. After we get done talking about that, we'll speak on a stubborn pattern that continues to bring a lot of nasty heat. And on the upper portion of this ridge, just bringing this awful, really hot, stagnant pattern. We're getting rounds of strong and severe thunderstorms. So we'll speak on it and just talk about what's driving it and how long it could potentially last. And then we'll talk about today's weather, and then stay tuned for the end of the video. If you're interested, we'll do a Bible devotion. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is the Atlantic. I'm going to circle a couple different areas on your screen. Let's make sure this is going to work, and it is. So we got the leftovers of what was technically Invest 94L, just an area that was, I guess you would say, under investigation for tropical development. And this is sort of the leftovers of it right into here. It doesn't look like much on your screen. It really isn't much. It's being just kind of shredded apart, if you will. A lot of dry air, a lot of shear in this area. But we are watching out here also. This is the central, eastern Atlantic, a little bit closer to Africa. We're just watching some tropical waves that can come out over the open waters of the Atlantic, have a shot to develop, so we'll speak on that. And a little bit closer to home, we got some unsettled weather in this area, and I do think some energy will swing over the northern Gulf once again, kind of like just what happened last week with Invest 93L. We thought, hey, that could potentially take a name and become Dexter. It did not, but the National Hurricane Center has even given this some attention now and has dubbed it an area of interest. So we are going to watch this area, even though you don't really see much right now, for some tropical development. If you've been tuning in on the channel, or probably really any channel that speaks on the weather on YouTube, they've probably been mentioning this, and we're going to continue to talk about it until it's not a threat, or if it becomes a threat here in the foreseeable future. So this is the entire picture. Let's get all this off your screen and continue to move forward here. Now, the latest from the National Hurricane Center, we actually have an area of interest. So this yellow region, that is where we have a 10% chance of tropical development. Development meaning into a tropical depression or a named storm, or just a system with a defined low-level circulation or feature. So very low shot at this. The actual center of this energy is right here. It's crazy. It's like deja vu, right? It's right over the same areas where that energy was last week also. So this will swing over the northern Gulf, have a shot to develop. Another area I do want to watch, though, that could emerge on our screen over the next 24 or 48 hours is out here. I would not be surprised if the National Hurricane Center introduces some sort of area of interest that will have a 10 to 20% chance to develop. But as of right now, per the about 1 a.m. update from last night, it does not have that. So that's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We continue to move forward here. What about a little bit closer to home? Let's discuss this first, since it is, closer to the lower 48. So you're just going to see blobs of green, some blues, some yellows, some orange, red on your screen. This is just convection, shower and storm activity. And we're going to start this around this evening. You see a lot of storm activity over Florida. Now, as we continue to move this into tomorrow morning, you're going to see a lot of moisture over the northern Gulf. Now, does this try to gain some tropical characteristics and develop into something? I think it'll have a few day kind of time period to do it. It's not going to be very long. But this energy will continue just to kind of cruise. And as we get into tomorrow evening, it'll be sort of in the central northern Gulf. This should bring some tropical moisture, a lot of shower and storm activity along the Gulf coastline. And then as we continue to move into Friday morning, this begins to enter sort of the northwest Gulf. And I think this will have it I think it'll have its best shot to develop in this region. I do think just upper ridging on top of this will allow for a better upper wind pattern, if you will, for this to develop, because just because the sea surface temperatures in the northern Gulf are in the mid to upper 80s, even in some cases low 90s. That's not the only thing we look for when we're trying to figure out if conditions are favorable for tropical development. But as we start to get into Friday afternoon, Nothing really develops on the Euro. Just kind of throws some tropical moisture into Texas, Louisiana, heck, even pretty much all the Gulf states as it cruises across the, excuse me, northern Gulf. So latest Euro does not show any tropical development from this, but there is a shot, and sometimes models get it wrong. A lot of times they do. Another great way to look at this is precipitation values. And by the way, I live here in central South Carolina. This is, you can call it PWatt or PWAT values, and just basically measures how much really moisture is in the atmosphere to sort of narrow it down for you. So precipitation values were like 2.2 to 2.5 inches yesterday here in central South Carolina. So we had a storm and it just dumped on just a ridiculous amount of rain in a short amount of time. And that is because of this huge plume of moisture. And really, this is kind of the remnants from Invest 93L last week. It's rounded across the ridge over the last several days, and it's pivoted back into the northern Gulf. Pretty wild stuff, right? So as we continue to move into tomorrow morning, you can see the deep tropical moisture. Precipitation values over 2.5 to close to, 2 3/4. Just ridiculous values of water out here. And just deep tropical moisture will cruise. And I think this is an even better way to show it compared to what I just showed you. Just a lot of moisture. And, when you got this shower and storm activity cruising over, the warm waters of the Gulf, it's going to have a shot to develop. So we'll see what happens. It's in late July. We're not in May or June or anything like that anymore. So, we're inching a little bit closer to higher tropical storm and hurricane activity, right? So one last way to look at this is the lower level spin, and there ain't much to look at, but you can see, let's start it back over here. Kind of watch this region right here. You can see a little bit of a spin in the lower levels of the atmosphere here, but nothing really discrete on your screen shows up or anything like that. So now I will say about a week from today there's going to be another opportunity to do this again, and I think the latest GFS shows it well. As we get between the 7 to 10 day range, it wants to show another shot at this as some energy gets thrown down into the Gulf and we have a low pressure trying to develop, and it eventually goes into Texas. Now that's not a forecast from me or anybody, but I would watch for this pattern to continue to kind of rinse and repeat, if you will, as a lot of moisture gets thrown down here as energy sort of pivots around a ridge. So, pretty wild stuff. And let's see if we do have the latest 06Z GFS, actually, and see if it shows kind of the same thing. And it does. It shows like a low to low pressure about a week from today over the northern Gulf again. It just seems like this is the same thing we keep talking about. And sure enough, make sure we got the right one. Sure enough, between day 7 and 10, puts another low pressure down here. So something to watch. And I will tell you, the experts at the Climate Prediction Center shows this also. If we look right into here, it's going to be hard to see. I'm going to circle it here. If we look right into here, you see sort of this red and white area in the Gulf and off the coast of the southeast. That means that there is, get this off your screen here, that means that there is a, around a 20% chance of a tropical depression or greater to form in that region between July 30th and August the 5th. And that's right around that time frame we just mentioned. Watch day. So we're in about a week, the next 10 days, there'll be another shot of this. But it does look like the Eastern Pacific is what stays active for now. It's just favorable pulse of rising air is over that area. That's been the favorable area as of late. So we continue to move forward here, and we are going to continue to watch out here in the tropical Atlantic. The latest, let's look at the latest GFS. Let's see if it shows it better or worse. We start off this evening. I want to watch this wave here. As this is already over areas of the Eastern Atlantic right now. It's going to continue to try to survive across the Atlantic, but it really never does. Now, there's another wave behind this, and I'm going to show you the Euro ensemble picks up on this one big time. There's another one behind it that tries to get going, but that fizzles apart too. And we're going to stop it right there. No point in really going past 10 days. This gets about a day or two into August. Now, I do think this wave that's ongoing right now will have, a bit of a favorable little pocket of moisture. But what about the one behind it? I mean, there is definitely more of a broader area of moisture, which is indicated by the green, but there is still a lot of dry air, which is the brown, getting thrown down into the main avenue of tropical energy down here. So, just continues to not be favorable out here. And, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. But we are getting, what's interesting to me is we're getting a lot of tropical waves. I mean, we've been to this time of the year before in hurricane season when we're not even really getting healthy tropical waves, but they are trying to come off Africa, but they're just encountering a lot of dry air and eventually a lot of wind shear, especially as they move further west across the Atlantic. So nothing to really be concerned about at all. But I will tell you, as we start from about 1 week from today and we go to about day 10, so this is a 3-day period, first off, there is a little signal for a tropical system developing here at the last second in the Northwest Gulf from that system we just talked about. And then look how it picks up on a wave that I think this is one that has not emerged over the Atlantic. This is kind of the one that's still over Africa. And it picks up on this, and there's a decent signal for this one. Now, this makes up 51 members, so the grand scheme of things, I mean, this is still not a ton of members. But, I mean, I'm not going to count them, but, I mean, it's around 10-ish, and some of these are stronger. This 993, that's probably a tropical storm. So, there's just continues to be signals of tropical waves, but nothing overly concerning whatsoever. So that's an update on the tropics. Now, let's speak about this stubborn pattern that's ongoing right now. We can talk about the tropics until the cows come home, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, there's nothing to be concerned about. But just want to continue to go over it. But the pattern a little bit over our house, right, is warmer than average for a good chunk of the country. Now, this goes from day 6 to day 10, which, I should have had this on your screen. This goes from the July 28th through August the 1st. So the last few days of July, right? So, I mean, there is a solid chance, 60% chance of temperatures being above normal across the southern tier of the country, 70% chance for a little small area across the Gulf states, but a good chunk of the country going for above average temperatures. The only areas that get saved are areas of the West Coast and the Northeast and maybe the Great Lakes region around average or slightly above average temperatures. We go to the 8 to 14 day outlook. There is the potential for some relief, and I'm going to talk about that when we discuss the pattern here in a minute. But the southern tier of the country continues to stay warm. Now, if we go to the 3 to 4 week outlook, I'm not going to go too deep into this when we break down the pattern. It still favors above average temperatures. It's just a relentless pattern. And it concerns me when we get too deep into these patterns. Sometimes I like to believe that these patterns really get roots. I mean, not literally like a tree, but it's like the longer they hang around, the harder it is to get rid of them. And I really believe that. It's wild how it works. But it's going to be hot between now and day 6, right? I mean, between now and July 28th. So we're going to build up to this time frame. So let's go on and break it down here. So this is ridging. So, I mean, I'm going to really just make this easier to understand. The reds and then the burgundy colors, that's where a ridge is in place. This is where it's going to be pretty hot. It's going to be pretty humid. And as we're starting off Saturday morning, July the 26th, here coming this upcoming weekend, ridge is going to be flexing. It's going to get wider. It's going to just get large and take up a good chunk of the country here. And I mean, look, it just gets even bigger as we get later into the weekend. I mean, a huge area that you're seeing in that dark red there. That is where a ridge is in place. Hot, in some cases stagnant, humid air. Now, we are going to get energy inside this ridge in some areas. So, kind of if you're away from the actual center area of high pressure, you'll get a little bit of flow, a little bit of summer thunderstorm activity. But I mean, it's going to be blistering hot today, but it's going to continue to favor a pattern that gets hot. Now we get into the July 28 time frame, which is what I just showed you, that 6 to 10 day outlook. And this ridge continues. It's just going to flex all the way through the 29th. I mean, the 30th, the 31st. Now, we'll stop it here. I do want you to notice something. What's the best color to use? Let's go with black. Ridge kind of, positions itself spikes a little bit more to the west, right? So the flow is probably going in like this. Now, you see these kind of yellows and green colors up here. This is where there's a signal for some troughing, maybe digging down across the Great Lakes region in the Northeast. And this could cool, the eastern U.S. down too. So there's a signal that the ridge could break down across the eastern U.S., but I mean, I don't think it'll break down enough to provide relief. In fact, as we are starting to get into August 1st, you can see stronger ridging looks to kind of bulge back in across the southern tier of the country. The only area that looks to be maybe saved is the northeast, but you can see that the dip in the jet right here is trying to break down the ridge across the eastern U.S. But so I would say the pattern just really favors nasty hot air because of persistent broad ridge across the country, area of high pressure. And what does that mean as far as temperatures? Well, I'll look at the smoothed out Euro ensemble guides. Now, I want to make sure I say this. Just remember that, like in the south, your average high temperatures are already around, I don't know, anywhere from 88 to 93 degrees, depending on where you live. Like right now, we're in the hottest days of summer here in Columbia, South Carolina, where I live. So your average highs is in the low 90s. So if you get temperatures that are 5 to 7 degrees above average and your average high temperature is already 92, 93 degrees, then I mean that means that your highs are probably going to be close to 98 to 102 degrees or something like that. So just remember that. So this is temperature anomalies in Fahrenheit. So this is starting off, say, here in the next couple days, Friday. Temperatures are in this area right here. This is anywhere from 3 to 10 degrees above average. And this is actually Friday morning. So if we move it into like the afternoon, I mean, above average temperatures begin to take over. Now, there's little splotches of blue here where you're going to get saved by cloud cover, shower and storm activity. But as we move into the weekend, this is the concerning part. I mean, we get into, say, early next week, well above average temperatures. I mean, some morning lows are going to be very high, right? And the corn sweat's going to be kicking as it happens in the middle to later portion of summer up here in the Midwest. So it's going to be just extremely humid, hot up here across the Midwest, the southern tier of the country. I mean, I know this doesn't look like much. It's like when you look at this, the colors, it's like, it's not overly impressive. But I'm telling you, we're in the hottest time. It's kind of like when we're breaking down a huge Arctic outbreak and it happens in the middle of winter, the coldest part of winter. Even 5 to 10 degrees below average is extremely cold if your average high temperatures are already at their lowest. So average high temperatures are at your hottest right now. So it's extremely hot as it is, even on an average summer day. So we get into, say, like this coming Monday, and, this entire area right here, guys, I mean, especially the southern tier, I mean, your average high temperatures are already in the 80s to 90s across this region. So, I mean, if you look at the kind of the key down here, which I probably need to move this down just a little bit, I mean, that's anywhere from, 3 to 10 degrees above average. I mean, blistering hot temperatures. I mean, all you got to do is hop on the Weather Channel app on your phone. I know most people have it, or either your local news app, and you're going to see, if you live in the southern tier of the country, in the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, your temperatures coming up are going to be very hot. Now, as we continue to move forward here, it continues. I mean, a week from today, still very hot temperatures across the southern tier of the country. But look at these bluer colors. I mean, this is below average temperatures starting to ooze in. So there's a signal between day 7 and day 10 that we could have a breakdown of this ridge and maybe some cooler than average temperatures begin to move back in. Let's hope so. But this is the blend of all models as far as projected high temperatures from today onward. And your average highs, guys, your actual forecast highs are going to be in the upper 90s to low 100s. But the alarming thing about this, just speaking of today, is that your feels-like temperatures in these areas today are going to be over 110 degrees up the Mississippi Delta. I mean, it is going to be blistering hot. Now, as we move into Thursday, still very hot temperatures, highs in the 90s, 100s, and then we get into, Sunday, we get into Monday. I mean, very hot temperatures, well into the 90s, all the way almost up to the UP in Michigan. You see the deep south, upper 90s, and just think, this is air temperature. It feels like temperatures in areas where this is saying it's going to be like 98 degrees, it's probably going to be like 110. And it just continues as we get all the way into the last day of, let's go all the way to the first day of August. How far? Yeah, let's just stop there. First day of August. And you can see, as we're getting into the first couple of days of August, the average, the forecast high temperatures off the blend of all models is definitely getting lower. Feels a lot more like, kind of a taste of fall up here, if you will. But the southern tier of the country continues to be very hot. And I will take it into like the second, and this is as far out as it goes. Now, if you look at, say, the eastern U.S., starting off tomorrow, you had a nice cool down across the Northeast, but you're quickly warming back up into the 80s and 90s, especially 90s in the valley regions. And then you start to get into Friday, the blistering hot temperatures return all the way up the I-95 corridor. And then look at Saturday. Blend of all models going for 100 degrees in Columbia. I mean, the heat's going to return fast. Enjoy the little break. I mean, and then look at Sunday. Goodness, look at Georgia and South Carolina, North Carolina. It's just going to be very hot. Just expect that high power bill. And then Monday, Tuesday, oh man, just awful across the Southeast. And then it tries to get beat down as we get a couple days into August. But guys, I'm telling you, these temperatures are just going to be brutal. So now I will tell you, there is a storm part of this. All of our energy is going to be riding the upper portion of this ridge. So ridge of high pressure going to be pivoting back and forth around this area. So all of our flow is going to be kind of going through here. That doesn't mean we can't get any shower and storm activity, kind of under this ridge. We definitely could. But most of our flow is going to be kind of going up through here. Call it ridge riders. And there could be some nasty, severe weather, in the northwest flow part of this also. We just got to get a little bit closer to each day. So as we continue to move forward here, you can see how the main flow in the upper levels is pivoting kind of like this, right? And I'm going to put this in motion. You're going to see it moving. So our main flow is on top. So we're going to have rounds of strong to severe thunderstorms up here in the upper Midwest, the high plains, eventually into the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast also, I do think. And, we'll speak about each given day as it gets a little bit closer to us, but it's definitely a pattern that just continues to support very stormy conditions on the upper portion of this ridge and on the sides of this ridge. So over here, we get more of a south to north flow. Down here, we get more of a northwest, a southeast flow. And up here on top of the ridge, more of a west to east flow, if that makes sense. So, speaking on the weather today, though, I hope all that helped you out. But we do have rounds of strong to severe thunderstorms out there across the Dakotas. Big chunk of rain moving out of Iowa, starting to, well, it already is impacting areas of Wisconsin. We got rain dancing around around the southeast and off the coast of the southeast and over the Gulf. A little bit of rain across Texas, big area of storms across South Dakota, and some flow across the Rockies. Now, I will tell you, you can already see what's going on with this flow. A little bit of glitching of the radar up there. Try to ignore that. You can already see, the flow's going like this. It's going up here. And if there was any action right here, it would probably be going like this. So you can already tell the ridge is spiking, right? It's moving in place, and the temperatures will be directly impacted by that. Now, watch as warnings and advisories. Heat is the big word today. These are extreme heat warnings across this area of the purple and pink color right here. The orange, that is heat advisories. And this pretty much goes from the Gulf coastline all the way up into areas of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. There's a couple areas also across New England. You guys went from a nice fall air mass to hot temperatures in 24 hours. Flood watches are up here in areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and South Dakota. Now, the risk of thunderstorms today, severe weather, slight risk extends all the way from Nebraska and covers up and gets all the way and then covers up all of the UP and Michigan. So a marginal risk around this, but that yellow area, that's a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Closer look at this. I'll kind of maneuver through these areas. Minneapolis there, Eau Claire. And then we move it up here. And, pretty much covers, except Houghton maybe up here in the peninsula. Pretty much covers all the UP and Michigan. Now, the tornado threat really centered over this region here. Northern Wisconsin, over Minneapolis, especially just east. And gets into the UP and Michigan. There is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in this area. So be aware of that. The wind threat, entire slight risk area, of course, 15% risk of damaging winds. And then the hail threat really positioned further to the west, but not very high. The risk of excessive rainfall. If you live in this yellow area, that is a 15% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flooding guidance within 25 miles in a given location. So, with just ample amount of rounds of storms, we're certainly going to have the risk of flash flooding. The southeast today, we'll be able to skim through this pretty quick. No real risk of severe weather. Some of these storms will pack a punch and hit severe limits like any normal summer thunderstorm can. But you can see as we're getting to this afternoon, some moisture trying to jumble up over here over the Gulf, getting a lot of shower and storm activity across areas of Florida, southern Georgia. Carolinas, you might get some storms in the eastern sections, but You know, the deep south states, Alabama, Mississippi, just some pop-up activity, nothing too crazy, but you know, all in all, I'm not seeing anything high impact. I mean, even with all this tropical moisture, a lot of it's staying off the coastline. So the Northeast today, you're warming up. No storms to cool you down. It's not too bad out there, but it's going to warm up pretty quickly over the next 48 hours for sure. But, I mean, there's really nothing to speak on. South Central U.S., I mean, sort of the same thing. Just another day of numerous showers and storms popping up over New Mexico and Colorado. We'll have some tropical downpours moving into southeast Louisiana this evening. Some storms are possible in southwest Texas. Some storms are possible also in northwestern sections of Kansas. A little bit of shower activity in the panhandle of Texas, moving into western areas of Oklahoma this evening. But, you know, no high impact weather for the southern plains. Enjoy your nice day. The north central U.S., totally different story. We're going to have to zoom into a few states, but just a broad look at things this morning, getting into this afternoon. Multiple clusters of storms. One getting going down here in Nebraska, one in South Dakota, big one here in central Minnesota. We got clusters of storms in northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and then all this action kind of moves eastward, sinks a little bit southeastward, and another big line of storms moves in later tonight across the Dakotas. And just a lot going on. A lot of heavy rain could fall from this too. Let's start off from west to east, Nebraska, 9 a.m. We move it to about lunchtime. Not a whole lot going on. We get to about 3 p.m. See the storms forming out there, especially for the northern areas of the state. And then we start to get to 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Storms could, you know, really impact anywhere in Nebraska, especially, I would say, the central to western areas of the state. But this is 7, 8 storms hitting the corridor between North Platte to Grand Island, and eventually these storms will try to get down to Lincoln and Omaha, but this is 10, 11, another area of storms behind this, and these storms could just produce some hail, some damaging winds. Cannot rule out a tornado, but I think the highest tornado threat is definitely further to your east and northeast. Just be careful with these storms today. South Dakota, midday, big storms forming. I mean, right after lunchtime around Pierre, points east, Aberdeen could get some nasty storms, and these could really pack a punch. Damaging winds, large hail is possible. 3 p.m., 4 p.m., these storms, Brookings, be careful. 3, 4, 5 o'clock, these storms look to be really just creating a mess here in the eastern portions of the state. Sioux Falls could get hit by some storms around dinner time. Another cluster of storms moves into the western area of the state later this evening. Rapid City, be mindful of these, and eventually these will also move into the central areas of the state later tonight, and then we get after midnight and things begin to simmer down. Over here in Iowa, I mean, we'll take it all the way to about 6 p.m. Not a whole lot going on. It takes all the way to about 8, 9 o'clock before the storms really begin to move in. Northwestern areas of the state will get hit pretty good. You guys have been hit by a lot of storms lately. But 9, 10, storms could sneak into Fort Dodge and then eventually Mason City, maybe all the way down to Des Moines later tonight. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., another area of storms moves in. So just watch out for some of these storms being severe, especially the further north you get in the state. And then we look in Minnesota. Could be a big day of storms up here. We're getting storms already this morning in the northern areas of Minnesota. These will continue through late morning, midday, Duluth, northeast Minnesota. Watch out for storms later this afternoon. Then another nasty line of storms will move in the central areas of the state. This is 3 p.m. Look at this area of storms kind of cruising down Fargo, down to St. Cloud, eventually getting down to Minneapolis. This is 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and if you live in the central areas of the state here, I mean, it is going to be a stormy, severe packed afternoon, evening. These storms could produce a tornado, damaging winds, and even some hail. And as we are starting to get into 7 p.m., these storms really hit Minneapolis, give or take an hour. Let's move it a little bit further down here. This is 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Storms begin to hit Rochester. And then maybe by the time we get into the overnight hours, things should begin to calm down. Now, if we look at, say, the updraft Felicity swath with these storms, man, I'm telling you, there is a strong signal for rotating updrafts and strong updrafts in this area. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved a little bit more of a higher tornado threat a little bit further west than Minnesota. There definitely could be tornadoes in this area today. Please be aware of this damaging winds. There's a strong signal for some pretty strong storms, rotating updrafts also. And, you know, just to take a look at how much rainfall could happen in this area between now and the next 36 hours. Certainly a corridor of 1 to 2 inches of rain just east of Fargo to Duluth. I mean, a lot of rain could fall in these regions. Wisconsin starting off around midday. About midday. Some storms trying to move into areas of, just north of Green Bay. And then as we were starting to get into about 3 p.m., kind of watch out Eau Claire up to Ironwood, entire northern country of Wisconsin. These storms could produce tornadoes, folks. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., then a big cluster of storms moves into the northwestern areas of the state. If you live up here, be aware of these. You're going to see them coming. You're going to hear them coming. And this is 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and 9 p.m., just a very stormy evening across the northern areas of Wisconsin. And then we start to get into the overnight hours. Things should begin to calm down. But just like for Minnesota, folks, watch out for the tornado threat. Just looking at that updraft velocity swath, indicating some rotating updrafts, stronger updrafts, especially the northern half of Wisconsin. And we will take a look at rainfall. 1 to as much as 2.5 inches of rain for the entire northern half of the of Wisconsin. Speaking of the UP, let's have a little special segment for you folks. Got a lot of loyal viewers from this area, and I appreciate y'all very much. But we're getting into about 4 p.m. Could have some storms in kind of the lower UP area. But I would say the main show comes in later this afternoon. It's around 6 p.m. We got some storms moving through the western areas of the UP. These could begin to get closer to Marquette. This is 8 p.m., this is 9 p.m., this is 10, and then just a very stormy late evening, especially for the western and central areas of the UP later tonight. And this will rumble through and really pack a punch. It'll be a loud evening. So, got any dogs scared of the thunder? Things like that. Just be aware of these storms that are going to move through this evening and last pretty late into the night, it looks like. So, there is a tornado threat, but as many have mentioned up here, it's hard to get a tornado up here in the UP. But once you get a little bit away from the lakes, you get closer to the Wisconsin border, I would say that's where your higher tornado threat's going to be. But the western U.S., some storms in areas of central and eastern Wyoming and Montana. These will sweep eastward and then cluster up into that line of storms in the Dakotas. But elsewhere, there ain't really a whole lot to talk about. Temperatures brutal across the Mississippi Valley. Just awful. It'll warm up across the northeast. It will not be as cool as the last couple days, but still not ugly heat yet. That'll change as we get into tomorrow. Southeast, a little break also, but just, it's not going to last long. And in the middle of the country, we just mentioned, just blistering hot. These are air temperatures. The feels like temperatures will be well above that. And then the western U.S., really not bad, really one way or the other. So, that's all I got as far as the update with the weather. Now let's give you a Bible devotion this morning. And I think we'll have it right here. And this morning, we are in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. This one might be familiar to many people. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and sound judgment." So, of course, So depending on what version Bible you got, it might be worded a little bit different. But for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and sound judgment. So my notes I got here, I said fear will occur in life. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, right? Fear is going to happen in life. But don't let it be a life-driving emotion. Don't let it be, obviously, you never want it to be, whether you're religious or not. You don't want that to drive don't let it drive your number one emotion. We don't want that, or that's not going to lead to good things at all. The spirit of strength that is given to us by God allows us to face the blows of life. We talk about that a lot. God's spirit empowers us to have self-control, discipline, and the ability to make the right decisions following tough times. Love one another. Rely on God's spirit in the good and bad. Let that power your walk in this life. So, I say this a lot, and this might get a little bit off track from scripture here. And it says it, it says it in the verse before this. "Therefore, I remind you to rekindle the gift of God that is in you through the laying on of my hands." So I'm a big believer, that we always talk about, go to God during the tough times. And absolutely, I'm not about to say don't. But I'm also huge on when everything's going good and we become complacent, become comfortable. That's sometimes when we kind of stop talking to God. We kind of slip back into some of those maybe older ways that are sinful ways, and we find ourselves not, getting in the Bible as much, and just not talking to God as much, just reacting negatively to things. You don't realize you're doing it because you get kind of comfortable. Things are going good for a while. Now, obviously, when things aren't going good, it causes people to probably react even more negatively. But people don't think about when, you kind of, everything's going good, you just kind of, you kind of lose touch with God sometimes. And, I would challenge, and this is a challenge myself too, challenge you guys, challenge myself that, when the times are going good, be thankful to God then too. Use those times to really strengthen all those things that God provides with His Spirit, to strengthen your decision making, to strengthen your ability to love and things like that. And you do that by constantly, rekindling things with God and your relationship with God. And that's, getting in the Bible. That's, reading scripture. That's, going to church. That's just doing things that's going to strengthen your relationship with Christ. So, don't get complacent in those times. That's when you can really hone in, I guess you would say, on God's Spirit. You can really strengthen your core during the good times. Now, we always talk about God's going to use the bad times. That's when people normally, I guess in a way, become in a state where they're seeking any kind of help. So that's when they, when people are going through tough times, that's when they might go to church. That's when they finally might reach out to God, and God's going to use those chances. But just use every part of life to strengthen the Spirit that God's already given us, so we can react positively to every situation, the negative, and the positive. Because I know you're thinking, well, how do you react negatively to the positive? Well, I think a negative reaction will become what could become when you just get comfortable. When everything's going good, nothing bad's happened for months, and nothing's broken your house. Sometimes you're just like, well, I don't think we think like this, but sometimes we're in a way it's like, well, everything's been going good lately. I don't really need to get in scripture. I don't really need to talk to God, this, that, and the other. So just use everything to strengthen that. And I know it's a little bit off track, but at the same time, it kind of matches, if you will. So, but anyways, that's all I got. I get passionate about that. But you guys have a wonderful day, and stay safe, and we'll talk soon.